Hello, Who Dey Nation. You are now watching Who Dey Network. I'm Carson.
I'm Parker.
And today we're going to be talking about free agency signings and overall draft grades.
Yeah, so we're just going to walk through each position on the Bengals depth chart and give it a grade F through A+. And then we're also going to talk about who they lost, who they gained, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess with that, we can just go ahead and start it off. First grade, so I'm just going to be going down through the depth chart, just kind of the order it goes in. So first position we got here is quarterback. Really not much to say about that. We know who's starting, Joe Burrow, but is he going to be playing most of the year? Maybe not. He hasn't been the past couple years. Hopefully he will be. Then Jake Browning's obviously the backup there. He played really well last year. I don't think we would be if Jake Browning's are going to be our starter again with Joe Burrow gets hurt. I don't think we're going to be screwed, but obviously we know who we want in. After that, we have Logan Whiteside and Rocky Lombardi. So don't think it'll get to that point. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. That's quarterback. I don't know if you have anything really to say else about quarterback.
Joe Burrow, I think clear top 3 quarterback in the league when healthy.
Yeah.
It's just, will he be healthy?
That's our problem.
And so it'd be very easy to just be like, oh, top 3 quarterback, A+. But, it's an injury concern. He's played 4 years in the league. 2 of those years, he's had season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
So you just got to think. And he's been in and out with other injuries. He had the appendix.
Just
and then
things,
the Achilles. I think it was his calf more than Achilles. But I just think, I'm not going to give it that low of a grade because it is Joe Burrow, and Jake Browning was very solid.
He was a really good backup. Yeah, he played really
last
well.
year. So I'm thinking I would go like A- to A.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dock them too many points, but I'm not going to just go A+ because it's Joe Burrow, because you never know.
Yeah. And you got to think about, too, the overall quarterback room, too, of kind of who everybody has, which obviously I don't know much about the third and fourth guys. They haven't really been on the team very long. So we don't know much about them. Jake Browning, we do know a lot about. He played really well. I think he proved that if Joe Burrow goes down, he could still lead us to the playoffs. So our team's good enough. So I feel confident enough there. But obviously we want Joe Burrow in. And I think overall, the quarterback room, I would give it an A. It's not like there's any, insane, some really good veterans necessarily. But I think Joe Burrow's good enough, been in the league long enough where he should be good. And I think we've got some little good depth behind him. That's really all I had to say on that, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Running back. Anything to say about running back? Start it off.
I like Zach Moss. I don't know if he's going to come in and instantly be Joe Mixon levels, because Joe Mixon did, I believe, rush for 1,000 yards last year.
I don't know the exact number.
So, but he's younger, he's cheaper. I overall like it, but again, if we were going over last year, I would have given the running back room maybe a B, because Chase Brown came in and he was a lot better than a lot of the backup running backs they've had. But I just think, Zach Moss, he's younger, but I'm not sure how well he's just going to plug into the system, especially because I don't know if he can just come in and be that 3-down back that you need, because that's what Mixon was for years and years.
Exactly.
He could Chase Brown will come in here and there, and he did a lot of receiving work, but I'm not sure. He was the backup on the Colts. Colts, very solid O-line, as we know. Bengals, not as solid. So I don't know how well he's just going to plug in to that 3-down role. Maybe he doesn't take a 3-down role. Maybe it's very 50-50 between him and Chase Brown. But I'm just thinking, I didn't mind the pickup. Much younger, much cheaper. It wasn't like going out and getting a Saquon, but it was just, it was a solid pickup. We're just going to see how he does, because it's a lack of experience is what it is.
So just for some reference, so Mixon did have 1,000 yards last year. So he was at 1,034. That was off of 257 attempts. Zach Moss had a lot less of a number of attempts. He only had 183. And that was honestly, the most of all of his years at the Colts, with Jonathan Taylor being injured. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry. Joe Mixon averaged 4, which, like he said, the O-line over at the Colts is a little bit better, so that definitely is going to help it. And the Colts are more of a running team than what we are, because the Bengals, obviously, they want to throw the ball. But he had a total of 794 yards, which, I mean, being the RB2 is really good, but he was forcing that RB1 role a lot with Taylor being injured. Which I think could be a good thing, because that kind of shows that he's used to being the first running back in the pecking order. He's used to that. It's not like he's always used to being the second guy, and now he's thrown into that role where he has to be the top guy. I think that'll be fine, and I think he's proven that he's a good enough running back to be a 3-down back. I'm not saying he's going to be the same level as Mixon, and he's not going to know the offense as well as Mixon did, since Mixon's been there for however many years.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be good enough to come in and make an impact. And then with Chase Brown behind him, I think that's good, because when you look at Zach Moss's play style, he's an athletic guy, but he's got a lot of size.
Yeah.
So he's able to truck through people, run through people a little bit, be more of a power back. And then you got Chase Brown on the other side, who's really fast, and he's a really good pass catcher, which Zach Moss can catch passes too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're both capable of doing that. And I think when you look at that, you look at just those two, you're in a good position. And then you've also got Travion Williams, Travion Williams, he comes in, he plays.
He was solid.
He's a solid player.
A lot of special teams work.
He plays a lot of special teams.
He was necessarily bad in the role that he was given. He played a lot of running back before they started to give Chase Brown more carries, which I do expect a jump from Chase Brown this year, because he was kind of lackluster at the start of the year. I would say the first about eight weeks, but then they started to sub him in a little bit
and use him differently too.
Yeah, and it was less of a you're going to be the 3-down back, and more of you're going to play one, like let's say on a whole drive you're going to get 5. You're going to play 5 plays. Some of those are going to be receiving, some are going to be rushing. We're just going to see how it goes. Yeah,
and so kind of what I'm thinking for the Bengals this year with the running backs, I'm kind of thinking maybe they play Zach Moss in more of a in between the blockers type of role, where he's running up, he's getting blocked, he's going on the inside for inside zones, he's using his size to get by tacklers and go between the blockers. And then Zach Moss more of like an outside, running outside zones, getting to the outside, using his speed, catching passes, which they did kind of last year with Mixon and then Chase Brown.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they kind of do the same type of role, because you go out and you get Zach Moss. He's a similar running back to Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
They play really similar. Like I said, Joe Mixon's a little bit more proven at a little higher level, but I think Zach Moss can come in, and I think he can do really well, and I think he can do what the Bengals are expecting him to do and have a good, solid 1-2 punch there. And then, like I said, we've got Travion Williams behind, and then Chris Evans as well, which Chris Evans, I think everybody was expecting to be a lot better, paying out more than what he has.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Evans comes out of Michigan, I believe a 6th-round pick. And I think a lot of people, he didn't play a lot at Michigan. I think he may have got suspended.
I'm honestly not sure.
I think for some time, but he missed quite a bit of time. He was supposed to be very good in college, and then missed a very large amount of time, I think. But what I find so interesting about Chris Evans is he's one of the few running backs in the entire NFL who gets put on the outside as much as he does. Like, the more you watch Bengals games, the more you see there would be like one play every drive where they line him up almost as a wide receiver. They'll like maybe start him in the backfield, he'll motion outside, and then it's just a go route. And I mean, you don't see that from any other running back, but they try that all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes the ball gets thrown there, he doesn't come down with it. But I think it's just maybe to confuse the defense. But they don't do that with any other. And I think
that's kind of what they wanted from him, to be a really good pass catcher, to be able to kind of have that role of maybe, like someone not to that level, but someone like a Christian McCaffrey, who's able to kind of threaten the defense by being able to catch passes and stuff like that. But it just never really happened. And like you said, he's just kind of on really basic just routes, just kind of out there, not really doing anything that kind of affects the team in a positive way. And that's no hate on him. It's just not really ever panned out so far. So, yeah. So with that being said, like I said, I think their first two running backs, they're in a good position. The other two, I don't know, but are they really going to go past that outside of special teams? Probably not that often.
Yeah.
In case unless there's injuries or anything like that.
Yeah. I just said a couple minutes ago that I would have gave last year's running back room a B, and I think I'll go the same thing this year, just because I do think Zach Moss is a slight step down from Joe Mixon, but I also expect a huge step up from Chase Brown. So I think that hopefully will even out, and I would give it a solid B.
Yeah, and I would say the exact same grade. I think I would say B too, because really with this running back room, it's more of the two lead guys are not really as proven. So I wouldn't think of them as like the veteran, like proven running back that we know is going to come in and be good. But it's more of they both have a lot more potential too. I mean, even Zach Moss. I'm not sure Zach Moss' exact age. I know he's older than what Chase Brown is. Obviously,
yeah,
he's been in the league
quite a bit
longer,
younger than Mixon.
but
I'm
he's
pretty sure.
26.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean younger than what Mixon is, and he's still got potential to be able to develop, and he's had a good, solid past couple years with Jonathan Taylor being hurt. He's played well, I think he can come in, make an impact. I think Chase Brown's going to continue to have a good impact, so I would say B as well for that entire running back room. On to wide receiver. So wide receiver, we got a lot here.
I mean, it's a deep position. It's a talented position.
Yeah.
I think you could have given the Bengals wide receiver room the same grade this year and the last 3 years. It's probably the best position group on the field. That's what they excel at. I mean, you lose Tyler Boyd, which I think they were expecting to.
Yeah.
Because you draft Jermaine Burton this year, but also you drafted Charlie Jones and Andre Yosavash last year. So I think they really like having that wide receiver room set for Joe Burrow, and they just keep reloading and reloading.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much you can say. You bring in Jermaine Burton. I hope he turns out. I think he will. I don't know if he'll get a ton of catches out of the slot this year, but I think he will be quite a productive slot receiver.
Yeah, and honestly, with losing Tyler Boyd, obviously, I know Bengals fans love Tyler Boyd and all he's done for Cincinnati. But, last year was not his best year. There were some drops there.
Yeah.
The year before, there wasn't. I mean, that was like his thing is he was not dropping the ball at all. I mean, I think he had I forget the exact number. It was like 1 or 2 drops, or it was like a 1% drop. It was something like that, but it was very low on his number of drops 2 years ago. And then last year, it's like he started dropping some more passes, and he wasn't as effective as what he's been. And, I mean, maybe that could be with their offense and, Jake Browning being there. That could definitely be the case. But also with his age, he's getting a little older, and Tyler Boyd was never a threat with his athleticism. I mean, he's not an insanely athletic receiver.
It was a route running, hands, and just general understanding of football.
Understanding what he knows what he's doing. He's just a dependable, good receiver. But Jermaine Burton, with him coming in, I think that's more of an athletic threat that other teams are going to be worried about. Because Jermaine Burton's able to stretch the field a lot more. He's faster. He's quicker. He can get up to catch passes. And he doesn't drop the ball either. In Alabama, look up his total number of drops because I don't know it off the top of my head.
I don't think it was very many. I don't know.
No,
if it was
it definitely
ever a
wasn't.
Drop issue.
But yeah, like with that, I mean, you're still getting that security. 0% drop rate in his final season in Alabama. So, and I think that's what it was for Tyler Boyd 2 years ago. I think that's what I was thinking of. I think he had a 0% drop rate as well, which I'm not exactly sure how that's all factored to be a 0% drop rate. But, I mean, that just tells you right there. I mean, he's not dropping the ball at all. I mean, that's one of his biggest strengths is being able to catch the ball. And then just the added bonus is his athleticism that we didn't have with Tyler Boyd. So now it's like we have 3 athletic threats that we didn't have last year. We had 2, and then we had 1 dependable guy that we knew was going to be there. Yeah. And then also, like when we go into tight end, if Eric Gall is going to be on the field more, there's another athletic threat. Same with Mike Gesicki, another athletic threat. So it's like, okay, now we start building on that. So that's just an added positive, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you can go under Chase and Higgins and Burton. And, I mean, you find Trenton Irwin, who over the last 2 to 3 years has been a very reliable wide receiver 4. I mean, he doesn't come in a lot, but he plays decent when he plays, pretty good route runner.
Yeah.
And then you have Yoshi, who I think will be this year's clear-cut wide receiver 4, who is a outside red zone guy, which I said in the last video, but that's really what he's going to do. I mean, 4 receiving touchdowns, I believe, on 100 and something yards. So, and he's an athletic freak.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at that just outside of that. I mean, Charlie Jones, I mean, he was injured some, and he played pretty well when he was in. It wasn't anything outstanding, but I mean, he did have that one return touchdown, which did he have another one that was called back? Or
I'm not sure. I remember something like that, but I know there was
something happened. Touchdown. But there was a return touchdown that happened, whether of penalties or anything, that he did have. And I know he had a really deep ball that would have been caught for a touchdown. The game I was at, and he just got overthrown by I believe it was Jake Browning. So I think he can be a deep threat, and I think he can be productive in the slot as well. So I think he'll be a good player to be able to rotate in. He'll still be a threat, and then Yoshi as well. Yeah, he's very athletic. I mean, if anybody watching knows anything about track by any means, I mean, he's very fast, very athletic. I mean, he high jumps 6'10", so he's able to get up and get those balls. 24 feet in long jump. I mean, he threw discus, he pole vaulted, he ran a 6'7" in the 60 meter, which is very fast. I mean, he's just overall just a very athletic player. He's kind of able to do whatever needed. He's able to come up with those balls. He's able to get to them, and he's got length too. So I think he's a really. I'm really excited to see how he's going to be this year, because I think he'll just continue to get better. And once T leaves, I think he might be able to kind of take T's spot as an outside receiver who's able to do those things. Like I said, he's not to the level at T as T is yet, but I think he's more athletic than T. So I think he can get to that level. Just by developing, working on his game, getting better, being able to control his body a little bit better. Yeah, I think he can get to that level and be that guy. And then when we continue, when we have Charlie Jones and Jermaine Burton being younger players, I think we'll be good as the time goes on. Because, Trenton Irwin, he's still there. He's a veteran guy. He's a good locker room guy. He's able to help those guys. And he's still productive himself when he's on the field. Yeah. So I really like our wide receiver room. Honestly, I would say... Really, I honestly don't have any problem giving it an A+. Yeah, I think it's a really good room. I don't really know any other teams that have a better wide receiver room off the top of my head, just overall for depth. Yeah, I mean, there's some you could say who now have a better 1 through 3. I mean, the Seahawks have a very solid 1 through 3. Maybe 1 through 3, but I'm saying overall for depth. 1 through 5, 1 through 6, it would be very hard to find a deeper wide receiver room than this. So I hinted at it earlier. I'm going A+. I said... You could have said A+ the last 3 years, maybe. So I think it's been a strong point of the Bengals for the last couple of years. I would agree. And then on to that, which we talked about a little bit, but tight end. On to tight end.
I think about that? The tight end room is stronger this year than it has been.
I would completely agree with that, yes.
the last however 3 years. Yeah, I would say. I mean, Uzama was very solid. Hurst was solid. Irv Smith was not solid. But then you had Tanner Hudson, who came in. He was decent. Yeah. But now you still have Tanner Hudson. You bring in Mike Gesicki, who I think could play on a Hayden Hurst level. And then it's just going to be up to Eric All and Tanner McLaughlin on how they play. Which
Mike Gesicki, I think, is probably the best receiver we've had as a tight end in the past few years. I mean, heck, at the Dolphins, I mean, he was basically a wide receiver. I mean, he wasn't asked to block at all. He was running a lot of wide receiver sets. He played in the slot a lot, which I don't really anticipate him to be doing much on the Bengals. No. But I think he's athletic enough, and he's good enough as a receiver where I think he definitely can make a big impact. Because, like I said, I think he's probably the best receiver we've had as a tight end in the past few years. And then with Eric All coming in, with his athleticism, just him being young, being able to build off of
prowess, that. Iowa coaching. I mean, that's always going to be a point that you bring up when talking about Eric All.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the tight end room's strong, and I think we're going to continue to build off that. And, you've also got Tanner Hudson, who, like you mentioned, is a solid player. I mean, Tanner Hudson played really well last year. I like Tanner Hudson. Glad he's still on the team because he's someone you trust in situations to make catches. to pick up yardage. He's not like a big scary threat or anything where he's going to be stretching the field or he's going to be, shredding defenses. But he's someone that you can trust to make those, catches when you're trying to convert a first down or stuff like that. And then Drew Sample, not a big threat receiving, but he can block.
I anticipate a big fullback role this year. I wouldn't expect to see him hardly any, especially outside, but even
there's no need
from the typical, tight end set point, which is on the end of the line, blocking a little bit, running a route. I think it is majority going to be out of the backfield, fullback work, just running
blocking
with the running back.
You're also doing some little flat routes, blocks. Maybe. When you're in the red zone, you run a flat route.
Some,
maybe
some checks.
Or
kind of screens or whatever else.
And that's a thing too. With having as many solid tight ends as they do, they can get tricky with it a little bit. With having a couple guys in there. Behind the quarterback, you're kind of like, okay, what are they going to do? Are they both blocking? Are they just going full on, just running like a power for the running back? Or is somebody going to be leaking out? You can kind of do a little bit with having a lot of good tight ends and a lot of tight ends who are able to receive as well. I think that's a big thing is having people at the tight end position who are good at different things. And I think overall it's really solid. I don't know, you would grade the tight ends overall?
I think last year was a rough year for the tight ends. I think I would have gone probably a C- for the tight ends. I really didn't. I would say this year I'm going C+, B-. It's not a depth issue. I think it's just going to be who's going to take that step and be that guy. Because very rarely do you see a tight end room where you have 5 guys who all get 100 to 200 receiving yards. To be a good tight end core, you're going to need that one guy who goes and gets you, whether it's 600, 700, 800, over 1,000, which I highly doubt. But you're going to need that guy, and I'm not sure they have that guy, but there's depth there. So I would say C+, B-, somewhere in there.
I would say I'm sticking, more towards B- route because I think their depth is really good at the position. I think it has been for the past couple of years, but they haven't had a clear-cut number one. And I think they're in the best situation to have that this year with signing Mike Gesicki. And Mike Gesicki, earlier in his career, it's that's why it's hard when you're saying tight end. If you're saying clear-cut number one tight end as a receiver, yes, he just didn't have a lot of blocking assignments. I think he's capable of that, but it's not going to be as high of a level as a lot of the other teams and really to what you're wanting as like a threat. But with Eric All coming in, I think they also are put in that situation where they have a chance for that. But I would say overall in the position they're in now, B-. But then we go on to the offensive line.
I say we do go tackle, guard, center here because I do want to dive into each because I am very excited for the tackle room.
And I agree. In the tackle room, if you want to start on that.
You have Orlando Brown Jr., who I think was very solid last year. It depends who you ask. With offensive linemen, it's hard to tell because you can look at sack numbers, but it's when going to different offensive lines and you have different other offensive linemen with you, it's hard to tell, but I think he was very solid last year.
And depending on the quarterback as well. Because he played with Jake Browning a lot, and Jake Browning's offense is different than Joe Burrow's offense. Jake Browning's going to be better at things that Joe Burrow maybe isn't as good at. He may be better at some things than Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow's going to be better at a lot of things Jake Browning's not good at.
Jake Browning has the experience to where usually, and it depends on the situation, 3rd down, 4th down, it's different, but if he's back there and there's pressure, he's going to get rid of it. As to where
Joe Burrow's normally going to go down.
I'm gonna try to get out of this. There's a guy there.
That's with I saw Joe Burrow. He was talking in an interview.
I think I've seen
it. It depends on the situation. So
good
either
sacks and bad sacks.
He's going to either just accept it and go down, which some players they won't do at all. They don't care the situation. They're just trying to make a play, which Joe Burrow. So that's why I mentioned Jake Browning might be better at some things than Joe Burrow because it all depends on how you look at it. Some people are going to say, okay, well, I don't care. Just keep trying to fight for that yardage anyways. When Joe Burrow may go down because he's thinking in his head, we at least can get a field goal out of this. Let's not screw it up and have me throw an interception or get hurt. And where Jake Browning, he's just going to let it fly, whether it's an interception or he completes it. So it's he's more of a risk taker than what Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow is a better player, so he's able to make those plays more often.
But I think earlier in the count, like, Browning is more likely to get rid of it there. I think you talk about, the pocket collapses, and Burrow a lot of times
yeah, he's more likely to throw it early.
Yeah, he's going to try to get out of there on his feet because Burrow is sneaky elusive, if you ask me, and I think he gets out of sacks very well, but I think sometimes he tries to rely on that a little too much.
Yeah.
And so, I get what you're saying, and I do agree with that, but I think it's where if they both get into that position, Burrow will go down, Browning might just chuck it, but I think before that guy even got there, Browning might be your, hey, I'm just going to throw this away.
Yeah.
Burrow is your, I'm going to try to get out of this sack. I'm going to see what I can make out of this
They're
play.
And that's the thing. They're different quarterbacks. Obviously, one's better than the other, but it's like it kind of depends on what kind of your offense is designed to do, what you're wanting the players to do. So it all just depends. They're like I said, they're different people. They're different quarterbacks. So the offensive line is going to have to adjust to that and know kind of what's this quarterback going to be looking to do. What's their favorite route they're going to be looking at. What are they trying to get accomplished? It's just all their movement. How far does he drop back in the pocket? It's like you got to get to know every single quarterback. Like offensive linemen, I don't think people realize like they have to think through a lot of things. Like they're not just going out there, let me push this guy. Like they're thinking of a lot of things while they're blocking. Like you have to be know what you're doing. And I think Orlando Brown's gonna have a better year this year. I think he played well last year. I think there were some people that were like, he should have been better, shouldn't have did this. Well, it's hard when you're adjusting, when you've went all a training camp of adjusting Joe Burrow, and then you've got to switch up out of nowhere, and Jake Browning's a quarterback now. So
and you get Trent Brown coming in, and I don't think he will be as good this year as Orlando was last year because he doesn't have that reputation, but he's just another big body who I think is a veteran there for Amarius Mims whenever Mims takes over. So I like the tackle room this year. I don't think Mims will play much this year. He'll probably get in on a couple snaps. But I think looking towards the future, I like it a lot. For this year, I would say, I gave the tight ends C+, B-. I would probably give the tackles a similar grade. Probably a B-. I don't know how you feel
personally,
about it.
So I was just looking. So Trent Brown, so he's played in one Pro Bowl. Won one championship. And I think with Trent Brown too, I think he's a really good player. And I think really the main thing with him, that there is like the gray area there is injuries, obviously. And then really just his mindset, because, there was a whole thing with him not playing. I think it was last year for the Patriots, a lot of games. And there was some speculation of whether he was really hurt the whole time or he just didn't want to play for the Patriots. Which, you could think, coming back to Patriots, bashing again, but, the Patriots, they didn't have the best team. They didn't have the best quarterback. Mac Jones wasn't really going out there slinging it, playing really well.
Yeah.
So, it's just hard to know from the mind of kind of what he was thinking, and obviously he's had a lot of injuries. But he's been a Pro Bowl lineman before, and he hasn't been healthy for a lot of full seasons, and he's been in the league for a while. So I think Trent Brown's going to be a solid player. He's a big body. I'm excited to see how he plays if he's able to stay healthy. And the same for Amarius Mims, which we didn't really speak on much today. We did in the first episode, but I think he's going to come in. He might have that chance to be the starter. But even if he's not the starter, I think he's going to learn a lot from Trent Brown and Orlando Brown. And I think he's just going to continue to build on that. And I really like their tackle room. It's just kind of there's some uncertainty there because we don't know how it's going to be coming up next year with the injuries and everything, because there's some injury concerns and adjusting to Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow is going to be a starter full time, which hopefully he will be and he won't get injured. But I would probably say B, leaning borderline B+.
Okay.
I really like their tackles. It's just, yeah, there's some uncertainty there. We don't know what's going to happen. I would probably say B plus. I'd probably give them the B plus because I think they're going to be good. And there's a lot of size. I mean, it's the biggest 3 tackles of any team, and I think that's a really good thing.
That's going to help.
I would say B plus because I think there's a lot of things I like there. It's just there's some uncertainty when it comes to how are they going to play together, who their quarterback's going to be, and whether there's going to be injuries or not.
Yeah,
I would say I'd probably say B plus.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Guard, on the other hand,
I wouldn't say B plus.
I would not say B plus on. I think Alex Kappa, throughout his time with the Bengals, has been solid. He doesn't give up a ton of sacks. He doesn't get a ton of holdings. I mean,
he doesn't get penalties really often.
One thing I'll applaud the Bengals for last year was there was sack numbers, but there was very little penalties on the offensive line. I mean, I think I saw a video quite a while back, towards the end of the season, that said Alex Kappa was actually the most penalized person on the Bengals this year with 4. And 4 as a number is...
Yeah, he did have 4 penalties.
Yes, but that is...
4 sacks allowed, but 4 is not a lot.
No, I mean, you look... I believe Jawan Taylor of the Chiefs had something like 16 penalties on the game.
I mean, 4 is not a lot,
leading
honestly.
your team is not a lot. And I mean... It's unfortunately Kappa, and I have to point this out, but I do not think he's been bad. 4 is not a bad number.
No, it's not. And I mean, you look at 4 sacks allowed, which I don't think that's necessarily a negative either. I mean, 4 sacks, I mean, if you're looking at you're saying, okay, this dude's you're looking at Trent Williams, for example, or you're looking at a guy who's all right, this guy's supposed to be one of the best in the league at his position, and he's allowing 4 sacks. You're all right, you don't like that. You want him to be allowing none or 1 or maybe 2.
Yeah.
But it's okay, when you're looking at what they're expecting out of Alex Kappa, I don't think 4 sacks is bad at all. And, he had a 64.9 PFF grade, which is a pretty solid grade. That's not anything outstanding, but it's not bad by any means. I mean, that's a good starting grade. And I think Alex Kappa has the experience. I think he has the ability to continue to play at a good level. And, like you said, he was the most penalized player of the team. But, I mean, 4 penalties is not anything to be crying about. I mean, he wasn't penalized very often.
No.
And really nobody on the Bengals was. So I think that's a good thing. They really do, I feel limit their penalties. And I think that's something that not a lot of O-lines do, because there's a lot of O-linemen that are getting false starts or they're holding. And I think the Bengals have done really well on that.
Yeah, and that might be a Frank Pollock thing.
It may be, yeah.
But, I mean... The problems that arise when you talk about guard is Cordell Volson, who I'm not sure what his stats look like, but last year, at least to me, it seemed like he was not very good.
So he had 1 less penalty than Kappa, but he had 1 more sack allowed.
Okay, yeah. But it also just seemed like, I mean, just again, we talked about with Orlando Brown that sacks allowed is a very iffy stat. But it just looked like a lack of experience out there. I mean, there was run plays or, I mean, certain plays where he just didn't seem to know what was going on. He might miss a block. Yeah. So it's hard to tell. I do not think he was very solid last year. And also, the guard depth is not optimal. No, not. I mean, Cody Ford is aging and he's decent, but he doesn't play a lot.
He's not a player that you really want out there all the time because he's getting older. He has the experience, but he's not someone that it's okay, we're good. We have Cody Ford here. I mean, he's a good veteran player. To come in, it's know what he's doing. He's a decent backup. But I mean, that's about it. And behind him, there's not much of anything. I mean, you have Nate Gillum.
Jackson Kirkland. Neither him or Gillum, I think, have very much experience at all.
No, I mean, I don't even know if I've seen either of them on the field ever.
No, yeah. So
which they, to be honest,
I mean, I've heard the name
Jackson Kirkland. Okay, he was just this is his first season, so he must have been. I'm assuming was probably an undrafted free agent. So you're plugging him in.
Yeah, I mean,
how is he going to be? It's Nate Gillum's first season as well, so that's why I was I haven't heard of either of those names.
Yeah, the depth is not great, and it hasn't been in a while. And I think they're trying to get the tackle situation figured out right now.
Yeah, that's their first priority, and then they'll probably continue to draft guard, which I know a lot of Bengals fans are going to be like, if next year they would go a guard in the first round, they're like, oh, we're drafting an offensive lineman again. But it's okay, what is the Bengals' biggest strength? Quarterback.
Yeah.
What is their biggest depth place? Wide receiver. So obviously, your offense is going to be your calling card of your team for years to come. Why not build up that offensive line and protect Joe Burrow and be able to help out the running backs?
So I think for guard, I would probably go C-, a D+ maybe even. I mean, I'd like Kappa, but it's a depth thing and it's an inexperience thing on the side of Cordell Volson. And it's just, I'm not huge on the guard position.
No, I'm not either. And I think Kappa, because with his age, he is a little older. How long he's going to be on the team, I don't know. Cordell Volson, I think, does have the potential where...
because he's young.
He's still young, and he was a late pick.
He's going into his third year in the league. I believe a 4th-round pick out of North Dakota State.
Yeah, he was a 4th-round pick, 136, out of North Dakota State. And I mean...
And this will be his 3rd year in the league, 3rd year starting.
And if you look at his numbers, they're not hateful. I mean, they're not like... You're looking at him, you're like, why is this guy start? But they're not good either. They're like... You look at his numbers and you're like, okay, he's decent. He's not good. He's not like someone you're wanting like to be your like solidified starter, to be like, okay, this guy, we have him here, so we're not worried. Like, he's just okay. He's gonna come out and show up sometimes. Sometimes he's not. He's not. That's what it is. He's not consistent. At all. Like, because there were some games where he had good games, and there were some games where he just fell apart. So it's like he's not consistent. And also, we were looking at his pass block, and that didn't take in account his run blocking either. So it's like, if he's able to continue to develop, I think he'll be fine, and I think he'll be able to get to that level where he'll be decent. And then like we said, the two other backup guards, those guys. I mean, it's their first year, so we don't know how they're going to be. They could be good. I mean, I think you've got some young guys there to be excited about, but I don't think, like you said, the experience is there. I mean, your only guard with experience, I guess you have 2 guards with experience, really. You've got Cody Ford and Alex Kappa. I mean, those are both older guys, and Ford isn't really playing at a high level necessarily. Kappa, I would say, he's playing close to a high level. He's playing decently well. But, I mean, that's really all you have there. So I think, for experience level and just the overall abilities of the guards, like, not being, to the standard of what a lot of other teams are, a lot of other teams' guards. I mean, it's not like the Colts or anything. I would say probably a C-. Just because, there's some things to like. You've got some young players who could come up and be good, but there's just so much uncertainty there again because you don't have a lot of veterans. So, I would say, or nobody established either. So I would say C- on that. And then when you look at center,
I'm not hating.
I'm not hating on center.
It's with offensive line, it's so tough because if you asked me, I would have told you that Kappa and Volson gave up so many more sacks than Ted Karras did. Now, you looked it up, and Ted Karras had 6 sacks given up.
So Ted Karras allowed 6 sacks, which is tied for second in the league, which you're like, oh no. Because that's like with Jonah Williams. I mean, he allowed like the most sacks. You're like, oh, geez, 6 sacks. But here's the thing, too, is, like you said, it's tough with offensive lineman, and Ted Karras, I think, is one of those guys where, I mean, Ted Karras is a really good leader, and I think he's in there, and he's willing to kind of pick up assignments for other guys. So when they say sacks allowed, I don't exactly know how that's factored, because he could be helping in situations where...
I'm thinking someone spins off of Volson or Kappa,
and he comes over, and his guy
last second just trying to hit that guy, and that guy gets around him because he's not in the position or... does he get that, or does
because
the
he's
guard
a center, so he's in the middle of the line, and he's kind of directing everybody. Especially with him being a really good leader. He's kind of the center, and I think like the sack number, I'm not even concerned about that. I think honestly, I think that Ted Karras played at a really high level, and I think he played as one of the I would say the centers with the most impact in the league, because I think he really went in and he really helped everybody from that O-line. He brought a lot of energy, he brought a lot of juice, he got everybody hyped up, he played well. I really like Ted Karras. I mean, he only had 1 penalty, he was playing all the time. I mean, his PFF grade is 67 PFF grade, which is good. I mean, that's a good PFF grade. That's definitely in the positive. And yeah, I don't know. I like Ted Karras. I think I like him as our center, and I hope he continues to play well. And I think he brings a lot of juice. He brings a lot of energy to the team. I'm not so worried about the sacks allowed because, like we said, we don't know how those are factored.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ted Karras is really good, and then we've got.
And then I mean, we've said what we can say about Matt Lee.
Yeah, Matt Lee coming in. I think Matt Lee is going to play well. I think he's someone who also has experience. Maybe not the NFL level, but at the college level, he's played for a long time.
Yeah.
He hasn't allowed very many sacks. I think he'll be good. Trey Hill
is a little more iffy.
Yeah, I mean Trey Hill was on the team. Was he a starter on the team when Joe? Because who was their starting center was? Oh jeez, he was the guy with the dreads.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I cannot. Trey Hopkins.
Trey Hopkins. I think that's who it was. Yeah, Trey Hopkins.
Yeah,
so
that was the starting center.
But I don't think Trey Hill
year, and maybe Burrow's. I think Burrow is going into year 5, right? And this will be Karras' 3rd year with the Bengals. So I'm thinking Hopkins was the starting center for Burrow both his first 2 years.
But Trey Hill did he just come in when
Karras came in? I'm thinking
when So yeah, I'm not sure because he was picked in 2021,
which was the same year Chase was drafted.
Yeah.
So he was there 1 year before Karras.
Okay. So that's the thing is where I'm remembering him playing. I don't know if he came in when there was an injury.
He could have,
or he played guard. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, I know there was like Hakeem Adeniji who was plugging a lot of holes then. But I mean, regardless, I don't see him seeing the field very much. I think
Matt Lee taking.
We'll jump him in the depth chart fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. When there was that time when Joe Burrow was like the most sacked quarterback in the league, getting sacked all the time, or at least up there for most sacked.
Yeah,
there was a lot of just like plugging and playing. So that's why Trey Hill, he might have played guard.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot of just throwing people in positions who they were kind of experimenting with. Like, can they play here? They were just trying to find an answer, really. When you have a quarterback that good, you're wanting to protect them. They're trying to do everything they can.
Yeah.
So I think right now we're at a way more stable spot with our entire offensive line, even though it's not amazing.
Yeah.
I think we're in a more stable spot. And for center overall, I think we're in a good place. I don't think it's like anything amazing, but I think we're in a really good spot. And I would say probably maybe B, just because we don't know how Matt Lee's going to be and how he's going to translate. Trey Hill, I'm not really high on, but I like Ted Karras as well. So I would say a B overall for our center.
I mean, I think I gave the tackles a B- to a B is what I'm thinking about. And then I gave the guards, I think, a C- to a D+. So I think somewhere here on center, I would probably lean that C+ to B- grade. I don't think they're as good as the tackles. I think they're quite a bit better than the guards. No, I don't either. So I'm fine with that grade.
Yeah, which I gave the tackles a B+. So I was still higher on them than what I was the centers. All right, so now we are on to defense.
Yeah.
So starting off, because we can just kind of go ahead and group everybody from each spot. We don't have to go left and right defensive end. So defensive end, we'll start with. You want to start us off with defensive end?
I mean, I like it. I think it's a stronger position on the team. I think. So I mean, I don't think Trey Hendrickson's going anywhere. I think it's all bluff to get money.
I agree.
And I mean, he had 17 sacks last year.
I believe 17.5 or 16.5. I think it was 17.5.
Somewhere in that range. And then you have Hubbard, who is a very solid, experienced defensive end, not a huge sack guy, but I'm thinking more of a run-stopping defensive end. And
I agree.
You have Miles Murphy, first-round pick, who I think
didn't get on the field as much as what everybody wanted him to.
But I think this year will genuinely start taking a ton of snaps away from Sam Hubbard.
I think he's going to
which I like Sam Hubbard, but I want to see those first-round picks develop.
I agree.
So I would be fine with that. And then you get into your Cam Samples, who still played a decent amount last year, played solid when he played. And then your Joseph Osai's. I mean, I think Joseph Osai has had flashes in his career. I do not think he was great last year.
like in his first year, I mean, I thought he was going to be a big impact. He got hurt.
Everybody likes to dog on him for the game where he pushed Mahomes out of bounds. But I personally think if he had not been playing in that game, they would not have been in that position because he was having a game up until that point. And I think he just got a little too aggressive. But I really think last year, Cam Sample jumped him on the depth chart. So I think, and you can go to 6 with Cedric Johnson, who we've talked about a little bit, but again, we don't know that much on.
Yeah.
But I do think it's very solid. Yeah. And there's a lot of experience there, but there's also a lot of young talent with your Miles Murphy. Yeah. So, I won't give a grade on it. Yeah, I'll let you talk about it for a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, lots of like there and a lot of young talent, with Miles Murphy just being drafted recently, and he didn't even last year. It's not like he had some monster year or anything, but he also didn't play a lot. So when he got into games, he showed flashes, and I think he definitely is capable of being a really good player. And I think he'll just continue to build off of his 3 sacks that he had last year, and be able to pick up some more, and because he'll be on the field a lot more. Yeah, and like you said, Sam Hubbard may be more of a run stopper, and I think Miles Murphy, I would say, is more of a pass stopper. So if you kind of, I guess, mess with that and kind of have who you want on the field for what you think the other team's going to do, I think there's a solid chance that Miles Murphy is on the field for a lot more than what he was last year, for having like a positive number, like over 50% based on what last year was. So I think he gets on the field a lot more than last year. And also defensive ends, they rotate a lot because
they do.
That's a position where they're getting tired because they're constantly just going at people. So I think there's a good chance that he gets on the field a lot more often than what he did last year.
Yeah.
And then by drafting Cedric Johnson, we have no idea how he's going to be. But he could come in, and he could be really good, and he could come in and rotate, for every once in a while. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be having crazy amount of reps, but he can come in and steal a few reps here and there in games. For sometimes, if there's an injury or if players need to get a rest. And then, you've got people like Cam Sample and Osai, who I think are going to be getting some reps. So, anything could happen. Even if Cedric Johnson doesn't play really at all, he could always make an impact on special teams maybe, or on the field goal unit. There's areas you could put him. Yeah. So I like their defensive end room overall. I'll let you go ahead and give the grade first since you started on them.
I would say you go over all of last year. I think Trey Hendrickson was the team MVP. Burrow missed time.
I don't disagree with that at all. No.
Burrow missed time. Jamar has had better. I think Jamar.
It wasn't all his fault though, when you change a quarterback. So
but I would say.
But
no take on Jamar because he's probably my favorite player. But I think last year was probably his worst of his 3 years in the league.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And so, and Mixon was solid, but he had a lot of carries. I think Trey Hendrickson was your clear Bengals MVP last year. And I think I almost have to go A here. Okay. Flat A. I'm not going to give it an A+ because I think the wide receiver room is on another level. But he had...
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't his least amount of yards of his season.
Yes, but also... So he had 12-16 last year. And he missed... In 2022, he had 10-46. He missed a solid 5 games that year. So I'm just thinking
productively, and when you can't look at the fact of maybe he's a better player and he can be this year. It's more of what happened last year, and Trey Hendrickson showed. I think he was clear cut MVP. He was second, or maybe tied for second in most sacks.
I think it went T.J. Watt first, then him and Josh Allen, I believe, were tied.
I think that's right,
but I think I go A here because you have 2 very experienced, and you have a Pro Bowl defensive end, you have another very experienced, very solid defensive end, and then you have a first-round pick behind them with a lot of athleticism and talent behind the first-round pick. So I think I would go A. I really like it.
I agree. I think I would go A too, like you said. And like I said, I'm really excited for Miles Murphy. I think he's going to make a big impact this year. And when you look at, overall, I mean, you just have a lot of athleticism, a lot of length in the overall defensive line overall. So, I think there's a lot to like there. And I would also go flat out A on defensive line. I really like the defensive line. I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way on defensive tackle.
I like defensive tackle.
Maybe not as high, but I really do like the defensive tackle room.
And, I mean, I sang my praises for Chris Jenkins in the last video. I loved that pick. I thought it was incredible. Going into the draft, I think you know this. I think everybody I talked to knows this. I was on the Byron Murphy train. I wanted him so bad. He was so good in college. I thought he was going to fall. As the draft kept going, I was between him and Bowers. I was like, him and Bowers. Bowers goes to the Raiders, shocking move. But I was like, I figured he would go before.
Get into that.
But then, I mean, when he goes to the Seahawks, that was when I was like, dang it. And then that's when I switched to being on the Amarius Mims and Quinyon Mitchell train. But I think for missing out on Byron Murphy, the Chris Jenkins pick was just great. I mean, I think after the big two, who I mean, pretty clearly Byron Murphy and Johnny Newton. I think after those two, there was a decent sized gap, but then you have Chris Jenkins right at the start of the other group. Before your Brandon Fisk and your Tavondre Sweat and your Michael Hall, I think Chris Jenkins was the clear-cut 3 for me at least. And so I think the fact that he's going to plug in he's D-tackle 3 right now behind BJ Hill. I think BJ Hill going into this year, I mean, there's differing opinions. I think he'll be the clear D-tackle 1. Yeah. I mean, he has Bengals experience. He understands the coaching. He's been very solid with the team. But I just think, I mean, Sheldon Rankins will get plenty of reps, so I think Chris Jenkins is going to come in, take those. And then you still have Zach Carter and McKinley Jackson, who we talked about. I think it's a very deep position. I think it's a very solid position. I think the Bengals' defensive line as a whole this year looks better than it has the last 3 years. So I think I would probably go, I don't think it's quite as good as the ends. I would probably go B+ to an A-, somewhere in there.
And, when you look at the defensive tackle room, I think there's just a lot that can be improved on because last year, you had some names there and you had some people that were doing well, but the running game, it was awful. Them trying to contain the run game. I mean, there was nothing there. And when you look at, sacks too. I mean, how many times was there a defensive tackle coming in and getting a sack? I mean, it didn't happen very often.
BJ got a decent amount.
Yeah, but
DJ Reader was never a sack guy.
No, and he was a run stopper. And you look at the run defense, and it wasn't good.
But that could also be a result of both your middle linebackers being clear-cut pass coverage linebackers and not very much run-stuffing linebackers. I mean, I don't think any Bengals fan would argue that Logan Wilson or Jermaine Pratt are good run-stuffing linebackers. I think Logan Wilson has proven himself as an elite pass coverage linebacker. And I think if you're going to try to match that, I love Jermaine Pratt, but that might not be the way to go. If you're wanting
and that's the
instant
thing,
run stopping.
Too, though, is they're both. It's not the fact that they're not good. They're both very good tacklers when it comes to linebackers. I mean, I know Logan Wilson I know he was. I don't know where he was ranked, but I know he had a lot of tackles last year, and I think he was really high for tackles. And I mean, Jermaine Pratt. I mean, there was a game I was at, and I don't. Like I said, I'm not.
I think I was at this game. It was like first quarter. He ended with
I forget the exact number.
6 or 7
but he had. I mean, I was watching the sack counter, and I mean, for the first, it was like the first quarter. I was like, holy crap! I mean, Jermaine Pratt, he was racking up tackles. But I mean, they're both definitely very capable when it comes to tackling, and they don't miss tackles very often. It's just
I just don't think that's their play style.
No, their play style isn't let me go downhill and stop the run.
It's there's the tight end.
Let's cover him or let's tackle him as soon as we can, wrap him up. It's like that's not their play style is to go and attack the run.
I don't think that's a dig on the defensive tackles. So
no.
I mean, that's why I went grade so high, because you can go after that run defense because it was not good. I'm with you there, but I also think there was. You can look elsewhere on the team for why that, and that's why I was big on. I don't know how you felt about this, but when The third round rolled around. Do you know much about Peyton Wilson?
Yeah, and I know his athleticism.
Big on Peyton Wilson.
Very
the
athletic.
Steelers got him in,
come down,
and probably the best pick in the entire draft.
Yeah, the Steelers
for any team. I mean, I think that was fourth round, and
I did not expect him to fall.
He had a second round grade. I mean, when I was talking yesterday about how I wanted them to take Ja'Tavion Sanders over McKinley Jackson, I think it was him and Peyton Wilson. That were. Right
I mean,
there
that could
me.
be a factor of him being he was from NC State, I believe.
Yeah, NC State.
So I mean, it's not like NC State. You look at them, and you're like, oh, that's a football school right there. So, I mean, it could have been partially the school. And you look at the Bengals, I mean, they're drafting from a lot of, like I said in the last episode, solidified schools.
Yeah, that's true.
So they may not have even really been that interested in Peyton Wilson. And it's not so much of because the player, I mean, it's just that's how they are a lot of times with getting schools. And, that's kind of how it was with Cordell Volson, though. It was the opposite. Cordell Volson did not come from a big school.
No,
I mean, he came from North Dakota State. I mean, so that was kind of a shot in the dark that I wasn't expecting when they went for him. And I didn't even think about that at the time, but after, and now I'm kind of thinking about that. That is surprising they even went there because they normally are targeting big programs.
They do.
So, but I mean, back to defensive tackle. I mean, I think they've got a lot of young players who are capable, and that's how it is for a lot of these positions. There's a lot of young players, but they still have some veterans. Like Sheldon Rankins, they went out and signed. Sheldon Rankins had a really good game against us last year.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really capable player. I think he's got the right mindset. I think he's going to come and play well. Same with BJ Hill. And, I mean, getting Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, I think is a big addition with his size and the fact that he can play nose tackle.
Yeah.
I like the defensive tackle room. I don't think it's as good as the defensive end room.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of things that they kind of need to fix, but I think overall it's a decent room. And I would say B minus personally for that.
Yeah.
I think there's potential there. They're decent. I think they just need to get some stuff together, and the numbers need to start changing a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my spiel there. Yeah. And we were talking about linebacker already a little bit. We can kind of go into linebacker, I
mean, I think Logan Wilson is an incredible linebacker.
Yeah,
one of the more underrated players in the league.
He definitely is.
I mean, great at coverage, probably a better coverage linebacker in the league. I mean, nobody has put up those interception numbers from
I mean, his interceptions, and like I said, his tackling too. And his tackling's good as well.
And again, I don't think Jermaine Pratt is a bad linebacker. I just think they have yet to find a person that matches incredibly well with Logan Wilson's play style. Because Logan Wilson's play style
they both have a similar play style.
I'm going to sit near the line of scrimmage and I'm going to find this running back and he's going to get hit.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to chase down this tight end or this slot wide receiver. He's like, I'm going to cover somebody and try to get an interception. And I think you talk about how good of tacklers they are and how they put up decent amount of tackles. I think more of Logan Wilson's was on the outside than up the middle.
I think both of theirs were, honestly.
Yeah, because he would draw back, he would be looking for something. Oh, there goes the
There'd
pitch.
Be a pass.
I need to get
He comes in. I mean, when you're watching the mic'd ups and you see those camera angles, you see a lot of times Logan Wilson. I mean, he's dropping back a lot of times watching the field. He sees a pass.
Yeah, and then he goes
instantly
and
on it.
Yeah.
And I think he's really good at that. I mean, I think he's a really good player. There's a lot of hate on Logan Wilson that I don't get. I mean, they say, oh, he's a dirty player. He made a tackle that any other type of player makes, and now it's banned.
Yeah, it's a hip drop.
Yeah,
it's a hip drop tackle.
I think he's a really good player. I like Logan Wilson. I think he just carries himself with that swag when he's out there.
Yeah, he does.
I like Logan Wilson. I think Jermaine Pratt's a good player too.
I agree. I mean,
it's just they have a similar play style.
Yeah, he's not on the Logan Wilson level.
No, he plays like Logan Wilson. He's just not as good as Logan Wilson. It's like
Luke Kuechly in his days with the Panthers was never matched up with another Luke Kuechly. And I'm not saying Logan Wilson is Luke Kuechly. I'm just saying Luke Kuechly
just his play
was
style.
an all over the field linebacker as to where some linebackers are, I'm going to sit right here, I'm going to cover the run. Luke Kuechly was I'm going to cover everything. And he never had another middle linebacker that also tried to do
like
that.
a Ray Lewis that's going to come down the hill and he's just going to boom people.
Yeah.
I mean, we need I'm not saying to that level we need that. It'd be great, but
but no.
We could definitely use another linebacker who's more of a downhill playing linebacker that isn't so much worried about covering the pass as their first option. They're more of I'm going to stop the run instantly as my first option. That's more of just what they need. It's not the fact that Jermaine Pratt isn't a good player, because he is. It's just with the way the Bengals defense is, it would be better to have more of that type of guy beside Logan Wilson. And
they tend to run a lot of secondary out there anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Which doesn't help with the run.
That's the
they
defensive
are
scheme.
consistently having 3 corners and 2 safeties on the field, if not more than that. I mean, they almost every snap, if everybody was healthy last year, they almost always had Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner, Mike Hilton, Dax Hill, and either Nick Scott or Jordan Battle on the field somewhere.
And see, that's why I was kind of more of that's why I get the defensive tackles a B-, because I think it is more on the defensive tackles to stop the run, because the linebackers, like you mentioned, I mean, that was more of what their assignments were. They were more supposed to be dropping back. They were supposed to be covering the pass.
Yeah.
It's like defensive tackles, if we can keep getting that stronger, I mean, for the Bengals, those are the main guys that are going to be stopping the run, or that are going to be expected to stop the run.
Yeah.
And I think that's good that they signed King Davis Gaithers again. I think he's an underrated player. I don't think he's a flashy,
he's solid. I mean, he comes in every once in a while. He comes in,
and I think he plays well. And then behind, they don't have a ton of depth. Joey Bocci played well. And he's a good tackler.
They did lose Marcus Bailey, who I was always a fan of. He was a great special teams guy. I forget where he's at now, but he is on a different team. I know that. But the linebacker room, for talent-wise, it would get a different grade than just for overall. But I think because of the way they play and because of those schemes, I would go C+.
I agree. Probably. I would say C+ as well, because there's a lot of talent there. It's just not consistent with depth. And, the way they play, too. Yeah. Just kind of – it's just hard to say. Yeah. But I would say C+ as well.
Okay.
That's what I would say for the linebacker group. Yeah. All right, so now we get into corner.
Yeah. I like the corner room. I think – I was very unsure about it going into last year. And then, I mean, this year you could be unsure about it because you did lose Cheeto. And I've always liked Cheeto. But I think Cheeto struggled last year. I think the age started to get to
maybe
him.
The injury, too, kind of.
Yeah. So I think Cam Taylor-Britt, when he plays, is a top 15 corner. And I think he could very well be a top 10.
I think even higher than that. He could be, top 10, honestly.
So, and then you're going to have, for corner 2, supposing that Dax Hill officially switches to corner, plays outside corner every day. The DJ Turner versus Dax Hill is going to be very big, because I mean Dax Hill was that first round pick, but DJ Turner has that outside corner experience, and I didn't think he played bad last year. I mean, there was a couple blown coverages, but you're going to get that especially with a rookie too. Yeah, and with that much athleticism. I mean, they almost draft him purely off the
you want him to make those big plays,
speed or whatever.
That's
he
the
has.
thing. Yeah, you want him to be able to make those big plays to jump the. Jalen Ramsey. That's a person right there. So Jalen Ramsey, there's clips of him getting absolutely burnt. Yeah. Which same with Trayvon Diggs. It's like that's kind of their play style though. They want to get those big plays. I mean, in Jalen Ramsey, I saw of a film breakdown of him talking about that. You learn different corners play different ways. Some corners play the safer route where they're not literally looking for picks as often. They're just wanting to guard their man, prevent that. And some corners like to overplay a little bit and try to look for those picks.
And I think you could say we were talking about DJ Turner, but I think especially in his rookie year, but a little bit last year, Cam Taylor-Britt showed a little bit of that, where it would be like the guy would run like a comeback. Yeah. And it would be one of those things where he played great coverage, but on a comeback, on a throw like that, a lot of the times this guy's going to catch it. And so he would see that opportunity and he would think, oh, I'm going to go get that. He would dive in front of it, try to get it. Yeah. But then it's just out of his reach. Well, then instead of like, oh, he caught it and got pushed out of bounds for 5 yards, then he catches it and turns. Here comes Cam around the side. Yeah. There's nobody behind him now. Now it's 15-20. And I think that happens a lot. And I think as he matures as a corner, you're going to help fix that. And he's going to be able to recognize more, oh, I can actually get that ball versus this is just a shot in the dark. Yeah, and I think that's really honestly pretty similar with the safety room. I think overall, the secondary, they're more of like an explosive play type of secondary where they're going to see. That's why I believe the Bengals pass coverage, like in the yards allowed, they allowed a lot of yards. They did. Because that's kind of what they do there too. It's like they let up a lot of yards, but they make a lot of big plays. Like when you're watching a Bengals game, that's why it's so exciting, because their offense is making big plays, their defense is also making big plays. Like, and they may let up some big plays, but they're going to get some back too. And you bring in Geno Stone, who had 7 interceptions. He's a huge big play guy. I mean, that's what he's known for. And I think they're banking on that, and I think they're allowing those yards to, I mean, to exchange them for those big plays. So, I mean, for corner, I think you have 4 really solid startable corners. I mean, Taylor Britt, Turner, Dax Hill, and then Mike Hilton.
Yeah, it just depends on how Dax Hill translates to
and
corner.
And Mike Hilton is aging. You never know, but he definitely had
he's just so
sparks
consistent.
last year.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and he makes big plays. Like he'll come in, and you'll just see this short dude coming out of nowhere, just
Off
booms
the
the
edge.
quarterback.
Bam.
It's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, he reads the field really
He's a
well.
great player. He's
And
so smart.
I mean, I think I'll give a grade. I think it's better than the linebacker room. I think it's pretty clearly better than the linebacker room. I think I give the D tackles B+ to A-. I think I would go B on corner.
Okay.
I mean, that a lot of that depends on how well Dax Hill translates, because if he translates really well and you have him and Cam Taylor-Britt playing at their best, that could be an A- position. But if it doesn't translate, and say DJ Turner doesn't really turn around as well as you want him to, I mean, it could fall quite a ways. With corner, you never really know. And the depth outside of those 4 isn't really
big.
There's Josh Newton, who I praised
who came in.
highly.
DJ Ivey had a couple good plays last year. And he got hurt.
Yeah, but after that, I mean, you got Alan George, I think.
Yeah, who's old and
I don't know how old he is, but it's just
I think he's old. Or am I
experience.
thinking the wrong person?
No,
24. I'm thinking of somebody else.
But he was an undrafted free agent a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and there's not a lot of experience.
No,
there.
yeah, I forget. I can't think of the exact name.
But I mean, the depth. I sang high praises about Josh Newton last video, and I will still do that. But again, there's no experience there, so I just think I would. I say B. I think I would go B. I like that.
I would probably say. I'm thinking more like B-, but there's definitely a chance to be up to like a B+ because I think there's a lot of things that the corner room does well, like with those big plays. I think in order to get up to a B or B+ though, I want them to be more consistent in coverage and not allow as many yards. Because I think that would be better, because sometimes that's how they lose, is off those big plays.
Yeah.
But then they win off big plays too sometimes. But
Yeah. So
it's just kind of an inconsistency. And if they were more consistent, I'd be higher on it. And I think I definitely will be higher on it as the season starts. And once some of these younger guys start getting in and everybody kind of meshes together. But for as of right now, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then safety, I'm a little bit higher on safety.
That's understandable.
And just because Jordan Battle had a really good year last year.
Yeah.
Bringing Von Bell back is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't play well at Carolina, but that was a different scheme, and he played well at Cincinnati. And
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot to like in the safety room.
I really like Jordan Battle. I thought he shown really well last year. I think he came in, was almost a highlight of the defense in the last part of the game. I mean, you look 82.5
PFF grade. And that's like
for a rookie safety who played the second half of the year.
I don't have like premium PFF or anything, so I can't see where he ranks among safeties. But I know 82.5 is very good, and they factor a lot of things into the PFF rating. And even it's not even just about PFF rating. I mean, you watch him on the field, you see those things.
He's almost a strange amount of reliable for a rookie safety. I mean, you had Dax Hill playing free safety last year, playing out deep, and there was inconsistency there. And you had Nick Scott, who was playing, who was not good.
He just wasn't consistent at all.
Yeah, but then I think Jordan Battle came in, and for what he played, I mean, he played mainly the second half of the year, and I think he was very good. We talked about this in the last video. We'll talk about this at some point. I think he is the clear-cut starting.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, him and Von Bell. So right now, Von Bell's already labeled as their safety number 1.
Yeah.
Which I think, in my opinion, I think that's what's going to end up happening. But throughout the year, I think Battle definitely can take his spot.
Yeah. I really hope. At least it's for me. I don't know how you feel about it. I just hope. They're not paying very much of Von Bell's contract. I think the Panthers are paying a huge amount of that. I really hope the reason they brought Von Bell back was, to get on the field for a little bit, but more as a mentor.
And that's what,
you bring him in and you're like, hey, Jordan, this guy was a great safety for us for a couple years. I mean, 3 years, I think. And it's like, you follow him, do what he does. I think you can turn into a good safety.
Yeah, and maybe in the next video or a video coming up, We'll do some kind of comparisons with players.
Yeah, and
I think the Von Bell Jordan battle, kind of how that's going to play out. I think that's a really interesting thing to look at.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely get into that in a further video. But I think overall for the safety room, I like the safety room. I think that it has the potential to be one of the better safety rooms in the league, and I personally would give it a B+. That's just my thinking on the safety room.
I mean, Geno Stone, clear-cut free safety. We didn't even really talk about him that much. I mean, you have Tyson Anderson, Dejon Anthony under them. We talked about Dejon Anthony, not too much about Tyson Anderson.
And the thing with Dejon Anthony, too, is like I'm looking at the depth chart right now, and he's not even labeled on the depth chart.
Yeah, but
So
also
like,
there's nobody on free safety under Tyson Anderson.
so it's
who
like
is
that's
the
why it's
second
like
free
there's going to
safety.
be kind of some maybe there's some competition there where it's going to be who's even going to have that spot. So that's the reason I'm not an A, because there is a little uncertainty in how it's going to play out, who's going to start, who's going to be playing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of talent there. That's the reason I would say B+.
I like B+. I mean, I'm huge on Jordan Battle. I mean, I think Geno Stone right now being labeled as better. I think Jordan Battle could come in and be better than almost anybody else in the secondary.
I think there's a chance.
You very rarely see. I mean, there were a lot of people saying that he was the best rookie safety last year. I'm not even taking that from Bengals fans. I'm taking that
I would honestly
from
agree with that.
NFL sources.
Yeah.
And I mean, you take that from a guy who played under Nick Scott and Dax Hill, who since Nick Scott has been cut, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he's on a team.
And Dax Hill
has switched to corner. And you have a guy come in and play that well. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I really like.
And that's
Jordan
another thing I
Battle.
kind of want to talk about too. So, like when, just real quick before we go to special teams and finish this off, just one more thing about Jordan Battle. I think we're both pretty high on Jordan Battle. So, Jordan Battle was picked in the 3rd round, and I think a lot of people thought that was a little bit of a stretch for where they thought he would get picked. But the reason I think he was picked so early, I heard early on. It was a long time ago when I heard this because it would have been last year around draft time after he got picked. I heard something about like one of the Bengals coaches or somebody he was meeting with at a dinner. They were just amazed with how well they were asking him questions and how well he was able to answer those questions about like coverage and just playing in the secondary. Like he's just a very smart player.
He is,
and he's a really good tackler. And I think that's his main thing he's known for is his tackling more than his coverage. But he's just smart. He knows where to be. He's able to make those tackles that matter. And like I said, I'm really high on Jordan Battle, and we'll get into that in
I am huge
in a further episode.
Huge Jordan Battle guy.
I think safety's a really good position, and we're really solid on it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then special teams. This will be a quick one here.
Yeah, this won't take very long.
You can honestly just do a little overview on special teams, and I'll just kind of let it be that.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to just talk about it a little bit?
Evan McPherson has been, his rookie year was incredible.
Yeah. And he's been consistent.
In previous years, it hasn't been as good, but he's been consistent. I mean, he's a reliable kicker. You can rely on him to make an extra point, make a pretty solid field goal. And when you need him, he's very good under pressure.
He is.
He very rarely misses, knock on wood, if there's any wood anywhere.
He's
when
not
in
like
big
Ryan Bullock.
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
And that's such an upgrade. And that's
and I would go solid A- on Evan McPherson just as a kicker. I don't know how you I mean,
if you look at other kickers across the league and you look at like who you're going to put in that situation to make that field goal, I don't think there's many people you pick over Evan McPherson.
Like a Justin Tucker and a Harrison Butker. I don't even want to talk about him. There's been a lot of stuff flying around his name. But purely kicking wise, Harrison Butker, fairly reliable.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of guys like that. But I just think Evan McPherson, he just has that about him where he's able to go out there and he's able to do what you ask him to do.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really good kicker.
I mean, and he's young. Kickers don't get passed around a lot. I mean, you see Justin Tucker had probably the greatest rookie kicker season ever and has been on the Ravens ever since.
I think that'll be
he's a guy that could legit be on the Bengals for the next 20 years.
That will
I know people don't play that for that long anymore, but I mean, you talk about kickers don't switch teams a lot, especially when they're good and they can get paid.
Yeah, I think
the Bengals will pay Evan McPherson. So I'm fine with A-. I like that grade. Punters, on the other hand, the Bengals, for some reason, cannot find a punter to save their life. I mean, they had... I'm trying to think back. Who was the guy? Kevin Huber? Was that?
I mean...
Kevin Huber, I believe, was the old punter. And he was decent, but then he got old. And then it was Drew Chrisman. And Drew Chrisman was not good.
No, but to be honest with Drew Chrisman, which... Drew Chrisman. So I see a lot of things. Drew Chrisman, he does a lot of vlogs. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I do too. I see those all the time.
And I honestly, this is a funny story, but when I was at a Bengals game, I believe I walked right beside Drew Chrisman, and I didn't realize it till like after the fact. Like it was like the next day I saw a video he posted, and I was like, hold on a second, because I saw him and I was like, this guy looks official. And I'm like, the next day I'm like, I think that was Drew Chrisman. And it wasn't, he wasn't on the team at that time. He was just with the organization, because I think he helped out with the organization with some different things.
He got passed around quite a bit. He was on the Steelers for a little bit. I don't think he ever played on the Steelers, but he was on the Steelers.
And he helped out with the Bengals last year.
And then
I don't think it was all.
He spent some time in the UFL.
Yeah, he's in there right
again.
now, I think.
No, he got cut.
Like just recently?
A week or two ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was just on a team.
No, because he got signed
Brahmas,
to like.
I thought it was.
It wasn't it the Stallions?
Or the Stallions.
Yes,
that's what it was.
he got signed because their punter got hurt, and so
Okay,
he was
but he
there for like
got
4
cut. I didn't know he
weeks
got cut.
and then got cut.
Okay.
But regardless,
now
they
we have
draft
Brad Robbins.
in the 6th
And-
round, which was most people said a reach, and then I didn't even think he was solid last year, and then you sign Austin McNamara, who undrafted free agent. Could turn out. I doubt he plays because
Maybe he could be better than Brad Robbins.
Yeah,
we
you
have
never
no
know.
idea. With
You
punters,
never know
you don't know
with
because
punters.
it's like they come in and it's like,
So-
okay, this guy's playing consistent. I mean, that's really what it is
Yeah.
with punters. You want him to be consistent.
I mean, I would go C- on the
Yeah,
punter
I agree. It's
position.
C-.
I don't have anything.
He makes some good
against
punts every once in
him,
a while. He gets a lot of hype,
but-
but he's not consistent at
Yeah,
all.
and then long snapper. You have Cal Adamitis. I don't even know how you say it. Adamitis.
It's
Cal.
hard to even.
And I mean, he's been. What can you say about long snappers?
The only thing where it is able to tell is before they had him. I forget what happened, but I do remember
it was
like,
the
long
Steelers
snapper
game.
got hurt.
Yes,
and somebody
because
subbed in, and it was awful. And
it was. I was at
missed.
that game. It was
Really?
It wasn't this previous season. I believe it was.
Yeah, it was the season before, I think.
It was the 2022 season. And week 1 against the Steelers, crazy game. I think Burrow threw like 4 picks that game. Crazy game. I was there. And then at one point, I forget what that guy's name was. They had a long snapper around forever. Like he was on the team for like
they did,
15
and
years.
I forget his name too. But yes, I know who you're talking about.
He gets hurt, and they did not have another long snapper there. And so they bring in Mitch Wilcox.
That's who it was. Mitch
And
Wilcox.
Mitch Wilcox comes
is
in.
the one. Yeah.
And I mean, you can't blame him. It's more of the fault of whoever did not have another long snapper on the team.
Yeah.
Because they go for a game-winning field goal. I remember. No, it was game-winning extra point. They scored the touchdown. They go for the game-winning extra point. The snap is terrible. I think it was Drew Chrisman. Has to like reach way over. He catches it.
Yeah,
he comes
it was
back.
awful, and then he missed
McPherson
it.
runs up, and by the time he's kicked it, Minka runs around the edge, blocks it because it took them too long. And they go into overtime, and I believe there was another punt that got blocked, or another kick that got blocked.
Yeah, something else happened
Because,
too.
I mean,
So it's an important position.
and then
it's just hard to know. Until
Cal
something
took
goes
over
wrong.
after that, and I haven't
Yeah.
seen any issues. I mean, it's hard to tell.
That's
The
what I'm
only
saying.
way you could ever know your long
Is if something
snapper is
goes wrong.
bad is
That's
if
the
he's
only-
playing bad.
That's the only way you
So,
can
I mean,
know.
it's like, he's young. I'd give him like a B.
Yeah,
I mean, he's-
I say B. I don't
It's-
know. I
it's
mean,
hard to tell.
He's been solid. Heck, I would say A then because he's been solid. There's not been any
there's
problems.
no complaints with Cal.
It's hard to rate long snappers, in my opinion at least. Maybe there's some people out there like, no, this is how you know.
Yeah.
But personally,
no.
I haven't now.
Yeah, with Cal, it's hard to tell. I like
Yeah,
Cal. He
I
hasn't
mean,
done anything wrong. I think he'll be with the team for a while.
Probably.
You don't switch long snappers a lot, so
Yeah,
I'm fine
I think
with
we're
Cal.
good there. And then punt returner, kick returner. Charlie Jones, it has Travion Williams as kick returner right now, and he did return kicks, but
Yeah.
I honestly see that changing. And Charlie
Yeah.
Jones,
I think Charlie Jones will be the punt returner.
I think that's going to be more his role.
Yeah.
He may end up returning kicks too. Punt returner definitely. I think that's going to be where he's going to shine because he had that return touchdown. I think he's going to be a good punt returner.
Yeah,
and
so punt returner, I would go like B plus.
Yeah.
as long as he can stay healthy.
kick returner, I don't even know how to give it a grade because I don't know who's going to do it because I don't know if Travion Williams is going to
Travion Williams
to do
was
it.
all right last
But
year.
he
was
didn't make
better.
big plays.
Chris
He's better than
Evans did it for a while.
who was the one? The cornerback.
I forget
Was it Phillips?
Darius Phillips, wasn't it?
Was that who it was?
Was it Darius Phillips? He dropped like 3 in
Yeah,
that
the one game he dropped.
It was a couple
I think
years
it was
back.
2 in a row. He dropped one, and then I think he
muffed
caught it,
both of them.
and then I don't know what happened. But
There
it
was like
awful.
2 drops and a fumble or something like that.
Maybe that's what
in
it
one
was.
game.
It was so bad.
I mean, Chris Evans was never great at it. I think I mean, Travion Williams could do it. Charlie Jones could do it. I think someone like Yoshi could do it.
Yeah, Yoshi could. He's athletic enough.
Yeah. I just think it really depends. So, I mean, I wouldn't rate it as high. Charlie Jones, I think, is pretty locked in at punt returner. Kick returner, it's hard to tell. I would go like C.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say C+.
They don't have any.
Because they have players who could do that, but it's just we don't know who's going to even do it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Right.
So special teams, and
I think that's
really,
everything.
I think we covered everything.
Unless you want to do coaches.
No,
but,
probably not. I mean, I think we're good there. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a little longer episode. We'll try to keep our episodes, around the length of the last one, maybe a little shorter if we can.
Like 45 minutes to
Yeah, 30 to 45 minutes.
But it depends.
But it all depends on the length. This one will be a little bit longer, maybe the longest one we have. But that's it for that. That's the rating the position grades of free agents.
Are we, while you're talking about this, because I think we could just throw this in here right here, are we doing the college trivia next time?
We may.
Because we think the idea for next time, if there's anybody watching this that wants to know, we're going to take every single position, probably every single player on the roster, and it's just going to be a trivia game between the two of us to see who can name where they went to college more. Some of them will be easy. Some of them, Jackson Kirkland, I don't know.
Yeah. So there may be a situation where you're like, there's some new viewers watching this who, like, we don't know personally. They're like, what the heck? These guys don't know anything. Well, to be fair, when it comes to all the players on the roster and where they go to college, no, I'm not sure on that. When it comes to other things like gameplay and different stuff like that, we know a little bit about. So
so I think if we can trust each other to not look up where these guys went to college.
So we think we might do that next week. If not, the week after.
That sounds like a good idea.
At some point, we will try to probably do that.
At some point, there will be a schedule prediction.
And we'll do a little bit on, like we said, with the safeties and we might combine that into one episode.
Yeah, position matchups or whatever.
So, but that's it for that. I hope everybody enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
See ya.